Jasmine Carter had always been the kind of woman who turned obstacles into stepping stones. At 32, she carried herself with the confidence of someone who had fought to earn her place in the corporate world. Tall and elegant, with deep brown skin that glowed under the office lights, she exuded an aura of quiet determination. Her natural curls, often styled in a neat bun, framed a face marked by sharp cheekbones and deep, intelligent eyes that missed nothing. She had spent years working her way up the corporate ladder at Bexley & Company, a mid-sized marketing firm in Atlanta. From the moment she had stepped into the company 5 years ago, she had been relentless, volunteering for projects, working late hours, and proving time and again that she was indispensable. Her colleagues respected her. Some admired her. Others envied her. But the one person whose opinion truly mattered, her boss, Richard Langley, seemed to view her as nothing more than a useful tool rather than a leader in the making. Jasmine knew she deserved more. And soon, she was going to prove it. Jasmine's mornings started the same way: a 5:30 a.m. alarm, a 30-minute jog through Piedmont Park, and a strong cup of black coffee. She would spend a few moments skimming business news on her phone, paying close attention to any shifts in the marketing industry. Then, dressed in a crisp blazer and heels, she'd head to work, mentally preparing for another day of navigating the politics of Bexley & Company. At the office, she was a force of nature. By 8:30 a.m., she was already in her cubicle, skimming through reports, double-checking presentations, and responding to emails. She handled multi-million-dollar marketing campaigns with precision, ensuring clients were satisfied and targets were met. Her team relied on her, often looking to her for leadership even though she wasn't officially a manager. By midday, the office hummed with energy, but Jasmine remained focused. She attended back-to-back meetings, pitching ideas that often left clients impressed. Yet, Richard Langley, the CEO, rarely acknowledged her contributions. Instead, credit often went to Jason Caldwell, a white male colleague with half her experience but double the recognition. Still, she kept pushing forward. She believed that hard work spoke louder than politics. And soon, her dedication would surely be rewarded. Bexley & Company was a paradox. On the surface, it prided itself on being progressive, boasting diversity initiatives and inclusive hiring policies. But the reality was different. Upper management remained overwhelmingly white and male. Women of color, no matter how talented, were often overlooked for leadership roles. Jasmine had seen it firsthand. She had watched as promotions bypassed her and landed in the laps of men who had barely put in the effort. She had heard the whispers, the hushed conversations about how she was too ambitious or a little aggressive in meetings. It was a game, and she was tired of playing by the rules that were designed to keep her in place. Her relationship with Richard Langley was professional but strained. He was a man in his late 50s, with salt and pepper hair and a demeanor that carried the arrogance of old money. He spoke to her in clipped tones, often dismissing her ideas only for them to be praised when echoed by someone else. It was an open secret in the office. Jasmine was more competent than most of the leadership team, but Langley didn't see her as a future executive. And yet, she had been patient. She had trusted the system, believing that her moment would come. Jasmine's heart pounded as she sat in her car that evening, staring at the email on her phone. After careful consideration, we have decided to promote Jason Caldwell to the position of Senior Marketing Director. We appreciate your contributions and encourage you to continue excelling at Bexley & Company. A cold rage spread through her veins. This was her promotion, her opportunity, her years of sweat and sacrifice. She clenched her fists, inhaling deeply as the weight of disappointment settled on her chest. But beneath the anger, something else stirred. Determination. If Richard Langley didn't see her worth, she would make sure that soon, he'd have no choice. Jasmine sat in her office the next morning, her hands clenched into fists beneath the desk. Around her, the usual hum of conversation filled the air, but she barely heard it. The betrayal still burned in her chest. Her phone buzzed. A text from her best friend, Maya. "Girl, say the word, and we're pulling up with pitchforks. I cannot believe they did this to you." Jasmine exhaled sharply, a humorless laugh escaping her lips. Maya had been the first person she had called after reading that email. She had ranted, vented, and cried for the first time in years. And now, as she sat at her desk, she knew she couldn't just accept this. She took a slow, deliberate breath, and stood up. She was going to confront Richard Langley. Richard's office was on the top floor, a glass-walled space filled with expensive furniture and the faint scent of cigars. He barely looked up when Jasmine knocked. "Jasmine," he said, voice flat. "What can I do for you?" She stepped inside, closing the door behind her. "I want to know why I wasn't considered for the senior marketing director position." Richard sighed, rubbing his temples as if she were an inconvenience. "Look, Jasmine, you're talented, but you're not ready for that kind of leadership role." Her nails dug into her palms. "Not ready? I've led some of our biggest accounts. My campaigns bring in millions. If this isn't about my work, then what is it about?" Richard finally looked at her, and for the first time, he dropped the pretense of politeness. "Jasmine, you're great at what you do. But let's be honest, some people in leadership aren't comfortable with your approach. You can be a little too direct, too aggressive, and clients prefer a certain presence in upper management." Jasmine's stomach twisted. She knew exactly what he meant. A certain presence. Someone like Jason Caldwell. Someone white. Someone male. Her voice was calm, but inside, she was shaking. "So no matter how hard I work, I'll never be good enough for you." Richard spread his hands as if this were out of his control. "I'm just saying, sometimes we have to understand our limitations." Jasmine stared at him, the words cutting deep. Limitations? She had spent her entire career proving that she had none. Something inside her clicked into place at that moment. She had been waiting for Richard Langley to acknowledge her worth. That was her mistake. She nodded slowly, a small, knowing smile curling her lips. "Thank you for your honesty, Richard. I appreciate it." And then she turned and walked out. That was the last time she would ever ask for a seat at someone else's table. Jasmine didn't go back to her desk. Instead, she grabbed her bag, walked out of the building, and got into her car. She sat there for a moment, staring at the steering wheel, her mind racing. She had two choices. One, she could stay at Bexley and Company, swallow her pride, and continue working for a man who would never respect her. Two, she could bet on herself. Her hands shook as she unlocked her phone and made a call. "Hello. Hi, Mr. Patel. It's Jasmine Carter. I need to talk to you about something big." Mr. Patel was one of her oldest clients, a successful entrepreneur who had always valued her work more than Bexley and Company ever had. She took a deep breath. It was time to make a move. Jasmine sat in the dimly lit lounge of the Monroe, a high-end restaurant where Atlanta's business elite met to discuss deals that shaped the city. Across from her sat Vikram Patel, a self-made millionaire and longtime client. He had always respected Jasmine's sharp mind and work ethic, but tonight, she wasn't here to discuss his marketing strategy. "I need your help," she said, fingers curled around her glass of water. Vikram leaned forward, intrigued. "What kind of help?" She inhaled deeply, steeling herself. "I'm leaving Bexley and Company, and I want to start my own firm." Vikram blinked, then smiled slightly. "That's ambitious. You've seen my work, Vikram. I ran every major campaign for your brands at Bexley, but I never got the recognition. I know I can do this on my own. I just need a starting point. If you take your business with me, I can build something real." Vikram studied her for a long moment before finally speaking. "You know what? You've got guts, Jasmine, and I respect that. Let's talk numbers." Her heart pounded. This was it. Over the next hour, they went over logistics. If she could secure at least 3 major clients, she'd have enough funding to start her own agency. And with Vikram's endorsement, others would follow. By the end of the night, he extended a handshake. "You've got your first client, Jasmine." She grasped his hand firmly, a slow grin spreading across her face. Step 1, complete. The next morning, Jasmine walked into Bexley and Company with her resignation letter clutched in her hand. She knew the moment would be satisfying, but she wasn't prepared for how empowering it felt. For the first time in years, she was in control. She walked straight to Richard Langley's office. He looked up from his desk, surprised. "Jasmine." She placed the letter on his desk. "I'm resigning. Effective immediately." A flicker of shock crossed his face before he forced a smirk. "I assume this is about the promotion." "This is about more than the promotion, Richard. This is about my worth. And I've finally realized that I don't need your validation to succeed." He chuckled, leaning back in his chair. "You'll regret this. You don't have the resources to go out on your own. Who's going to take a chance on you?" She smiled, calm and composed. "Oh, you'll find out soon enough." With that, she turned and walked out, never looking back. Jasmine wasted no time. She rented a small office space in downtown Atlanta. Nothing fancy, just enough to get started. Now, she needed a team. She reached out to two of her most trusted colleagues. Erica Brooks, a brilliant strategist who had been passed over for promotions just like Jasmine. David Martinez, a graphic designer who had been underpaid for years. They both jumped at the opportunity. Are you kidding? Erica had laughed. I've been waiting for a way out of that place. With a small but dedicated team in place, Carter & Company. Marketing was officially born. Jasmine worked tirelessly, calling potential clients, pitching ideas, and proving that her new agency could deliver better results than Bexley & Company ever had. The real turning point came 2 weeks later, when she got a call from an unexpected person, Michael Reynolds, the CEO of a major tech firm that had been one of Bexley's biggest clients. I heard you left Bexley, he said. And I also heard that the work they've been doing lately isn't up to par. Jasmine's pulse quickened. I'd love to show you what Carter & Company can do. By the end of the conversation, he had agreed to move his $2 million marketing contract to her agency. She hung up and stared at her phone in disbelief. Richard Langley was about to find out exactly what she was capable of. That night, Jasmine sat at her desk, staring at the financial reports. They were growing faster than she had imagined. Clients were leaving Bexley & Company and signing with her firm at an astonishing rate. But there was one final move left to make. She picked up her phone and dialed a number she never thought she'd call. Hello, Mr. Langley, she said smoothly. I have a business proposal for you. There was silence on the other end before he scoffed. I doubt there's anything you have that I want. She smiled. Oh, I think you'll want to hear this. Because I'm about to make you an offer you can't refuse. The tables had turned. Jasmine sat at the head of the conference table in Carter & Company's sleek new office. The past few months had been a whirlwind of success, and now she was staring at the final piece of the puzzle. Bexley & Company was struggling, and she was ready to take them down. Her financial advisor, Malcolm Green, laid out the details. Based on their recent losses, Bexley & Company is in a vulnerable position. Their stock is dropping, investors are backing out, and with the rate they're bleeding clients, they won't survive another 6 months. Jasmine smirked. Perfect. David, her lead designer, leaned forward. Are we really doing this? Erica nodded. After everything Langley put you through? It's poetic justice. Jasmine tapped a pen against the table. Then let's move forward. I'm buying Bexley & Company out. A week later, Jasmine stepped into the very same office she had walked out of months ago, except this time, she wasn't an employee. She was the woman coming to take the company off Richard Langley's hands. Langley sat behind his desk, looking worn and frustrated. He had aged in the past few months. Losing top clients and watching his empire crumble had taken its toll. What do you want, Jasmine? He snapped. She slid a file across the desk. An acquisition deal. I'm offering to buy Bexley & Company at a fair price, before the company collapses completely. Langley scoffed, flipping through the pages. This is absurd. Is it? She leaned forward, unbothered. Let's look at the facts. You've lost 40% of your clients, including your biggest accounts. You've had to lay off staff. Investors are pulling out. If you don't sell now, you'll walk away with nothing. His jaw clenched. And you think I'd just hand my company over to you? She met his glare, calm and composed. You don't have a choice. Langley exhaled sharply, running a hand through his graying hair. He knew she was right. He had underestimated Jasmine, dismissed her potential, and now she was not only thriving. She was about to own the company he had built. You were nothing when you worked here, he muttered, shaking his head. Just another employee thinking she was more important than she was. Jasmine chuckled. And yet, here we are. I built something better. And now, I'm the one giving you a lifeline. His hands trembled as he picked up a pen. You really think you've won? I don't think, she corrected. I know. And with a final, reluctant signature, Richard Langley signed over Bexley & Company. Jasmine was now the owner of the very company that had refused to see her worth. Emotional impact, victory, but at what cost? That night, Jasmine stood in her new office, the one that used to belong to Langley. She should have felt nothing but triumph. She had proven everyone wrong. She had reclaimed her power. But as she looked out over the city, she felt something unexpected, a strange sense of closure. This wasn't just about revenge. This was about proving to herself that she had always been more than what Langley or Bexley & Company had allowed her to be. Erica walked in, grinning. Champagne. Jasmine smirked. Absolutely. As they toasted, she whispered under her breath, "Here's to never letting anyone underestimate me again." Jasmine sat at the head of the Bexley and Company conference table, but now it was hers. The employees, most of whom had once dismissed her as just another worker, looked at her with a mix of curiosity, uncertainty, and even fear. They had seen the headlines. They knew their former boss had been forced out. Jasmine cleared her throat, standing with quiet confidence. "Let me be clear. I didn't buy this company to destroy it. I bought it because I believe it can be better." A few murmurs rippled through the room. She continued, "Bexley and Company has spent years catering to the same elite circles, ignoring innovation and diversity. That changes today. I'm restructuring the leadership team, expanding our creative direction, and making sure that this company actually represents the modern market." One employee raised a hand. "And Langley?" Jasmine smiled. "Gone." A quiet wave of relief washed over the room. Over the next few months, Jasmine transformed Bexley and Company. New leadership. She promoted talented employees who had been overlooked. Diversity initiatives. She ensured hiring practices were inclusive. Innovative campaigns. She pushed bold, creative ideas that revitalized the brand. The changes weren't easy. There was pushback. Some employees resented the shift, but Jasmine stood firm. And then, the results spoke for themselves. Sales skyrocketed. New clients poured in. The company that had once rejected her was now thriving under her leadership. One afternoon, Jasmine received an unexpected email. "Richard Langley." She hesitated before opening it. "Jasmine, I won't pretend I'm happy about how things turned out, but I can't deny it. You did what I never could. Bexley and Company is stronger now than ever before. Maybe I was wrong about you. Maybe I was wrong about a lot of things." "Richard." Jasmine exhaled. Not an apology, but close enough. She didn't need his validation. She had already won. That evening, Jasmine hosted a company gala. As she walked through the crowd, employees, clients, and partners, she felt a sense of pride she had never known before. This wasn't about proving herself anymore. This was about creating something that lasted. As she raised her glass to give a toast, she smiled. "Here's to knowing our worth, and never letting anyone tell us otherwise." A thunderous applause filled the room. Jasmine had once been told she wasn't good enough for this company. Now, she owned it.